Alright, but for real, everybody, this is going to be my Project L hot takes and predictions video. So, for this video, I have it structured so that my predictions are towards the beginning, and then my spicier, hotter takes are towards the end. And these takes will focus on the different aspects surrounding the Project L IP. So that means that I'm not going to focus on the gameplay or the mechanics so much, but rather stuff like the free-to-play model, the esports aspect of it, how it's going to affect the community, these sorts of things. So the reason I'm making this video is because I've seen a lot of these League players and a lot of these fighting game players, they don't play each other's games and they don't really know what they're talking about, and so they say some ignorant, weird crap, and they're just like going crazy, spreading these weird ideas around online. And I kind of wanted to clear it up because I have a lot of experience with both games, and I think I can make some great takes. And of course, I'm going to be right. And when I'm right, I'm going to laugh at everybody in like a year or two, I hope. Otherwise, I'll just be seen as an idiot and a clown, and I'll be laughed at. But I hope that doesn't happen. And I also hope that you enjoy this video. So check it out, and hopefully I am right. So the first thing I wanted to talk about for this video was the free-to-play aspect of the game. So we all know a few weeks ago, Riot came out and they basically confirmed that yes, Project L will be free to play. And anyone who's played a Riot game before, this probably came as no surprise to them. Everybody who's played Riot games, they know that that's basically their MO. That's what they always do. A game that's published by Riot itself will be free to play, because the Riot Forge games, those are made by different studios, those are published, and those are more of single player titles. But for in-house games that are made by Riot, they're always free to play, so that was no surprise. I thought it was kind of funny that people were even doubting it from the beginning, because it seemed pretty obvious to me. But anyway, the thing is, now that it has been confirmed, I still hear speculation or ideas being tossed around that, oh, you know, it's free to play. Can this work for a fighting game? Or will this be predatory? Which I just find to be so funny, because fighting game players have literally just been getting fleeced for their money for I don't know how long, probably since the beginning of fighting is. First it was put your money in the machine to play matches, and then it was, oh, you want to buy an update? You want to buy basically a balance patch with some new characters? Oh, well, that's going to cost you. That's going to cost you a new game's worth of money. And then now they have the DLC model where it's, okay, buy our $60 game, and then maybe another $60 more for if you want to get all the DLC. If you're a competitive player and you want to lab against stuff, you want to have a competitive viability, oh, well, you better pay. Cough up the shekels, kid. Okay. That's nice, but then you look over at the free-to-play market, you look at League of Legends, for example. How do they price their champions? Oh, wait, they're all free. There's a free rotation, and then if you want to buy them, you can just get in-game currency by playing the game. And it's not like, oh, I have to play 10 years. It's not Diablo Immortal, where you have to spend your whole life doing this and divorce your wife and you send your kids out to some kind of boarding, so you have to do any of this. You can just go ahead, play the game, and you're going to get the characters with in-game currency. That's how all their games are very fair. Legends of Runeterra, some people even speculate that game, it's actually losing some money because most TCGs, CCGs, they get their money from card packs, right? So Legends of Runeterra, because it's so fair, it just gives you cards so easily. It basically gives you wild cards, so you can just turn those into whatever card you need. Some people speculate that it's even losing money. I don't know if that's true, but I've never played a Riot game where it's like, if you want a character, you will get that character as long as you play the game. And anyone who plays competitively, plays a lot, they will easily get all the characters. That's what I predict. I predict the model will be just like League, basically. There'll be a free rotation of characters similar to Multiverses too. Where do you think Multiverses got their model from? Probably League. Anyway, there'll be a free rotation of characters, and then if you want to buy a specific character, you can just buy with in-game currency you get through playing. The other thing I wanted to talk about with regards to free-to-play is the fact that there'll probably be some kind of battle pass. Riot has battle passes in their other games, and it just makes sense for a free-to-play game. So I think there will definitely be a battle pass, and you can just play through the game and get special, unique items and things like that from the battle pass, and you get some kind of deal, you know, where you get extra currency or you get extra skins, probably for a better price than buying them all individually, as long as you buy the battle pass and play the game. So it encourages you to play a game, encourages you to spend money, so it'd be a good system for a free-to-play game, and I definitely see it being in this game as well. And the last thing I wanted to mention with regards to free-to-play is the notion of the customizability, that's a fun word, in the game. So that's a kind of a trademark of free-to-play games. They like to have a lot of skins, emotes, what have you, and I think it'll be just the exact same for Project L. I have a particular prediction for the skins, which is that I think they'll be very expensive but very cool. And the reason I say that is because this is a 2.5D game, and if you've ever seen, for example, the Guilty Gear Strive developers talk about how hard it is to create a model in 2.5D, it is almost the same as just creating a new character. So to create a skin, you have to invest a lot of art assets into it, and I think Riot will still do it because that's what they're known for, is to make these really cool skins. If you've ever seen League skins, they really are amazing. But the thing is, I think you will have to pay quite a bit of money in order to get them. So that's my prediction for that. For my second take here, I just wanted to discuss the netcode of Project L. And many people up until this point have said Project L, it's going to have some great netcode, it's going to have some of the best netcode in the entire fighting game genre. And I definitely agree with this. But I want to say something else. I don't think it's going to have one of the best examples of netcode in fighting games. I think it will be the single best example of what you can do with fighting game netcode. Now, the reason I say this is because of one thing and one thing only. Riot Direct. Okay? Other games, they can have great network engineers, they can have rollback netcode, they can have a fantastic implementation of rollback netcode, but what Riot has is Riot Direct. And the Cannons discussed this in their first Project L video that Riot put up, but I think a lot of people, they kind of just glossed over. They said, okay, it's going to use some kind of technology called Riot Direct, but what is Riot Direct? Riot Direct, to put it simply, if you've never taken networking classes or anything like that, or you're not that familiar with the way networking works, Riot Direct is basically private internet that only Riot has. So when you play a Riot game, your packets, your data is going through just their internet, just their different connections. Okay, you don't have to worry about the Fortnite kids, you don't have to worry about the Roblox kids. They're all flooding their packets into your ISP or whatever. When your ISP handles your packets, it's gonna play some games, your stuff could get stuck in a queue, it could get lost, all this stuff. And of course, it's not completely perfect with Riot Direct, but it is monumentally better. It is so much better with Riot Direct, because you can avoid all this nonsense and you just have your packets go directly to the different servers that Riot has and operates. So I'm going to put up an example here for you all from a podcast where they talked with two of the lead developers on Riot Direct.
And I told you before, the league target was 80% of players at 60 milliseconds, and we're good.
Yeah.
So we have a meeting with Valorant one day, and they're like, so our target's 35 milliseconds.
As you can see, their initial plan for Riot Direct was to have 80% of players being able to have 80 ping, right? That's already extremely low. And then when Valorant came around, they brought even more, basically different network links that allowed Riot to have even lower ping for their games. So now you can get down to even 35. That's incredible, at least for Valorant. And you can expect some extremely low ping for Project L2, which means that even if the game was just running delay-based netcode, it would have very good netcode. But because it has rollback on top of it, because it's going to have Riot's implementation of rollback, and they have some brilliant network engineers at Riot. So and of course they have the Cannons leading it, so I assume that Project L will have the single best netcode, and it will even be better than netcode that comes out in the future, because nobody else has access to Riot Direct. Nobody else basically has access to their own internet. It's going to be ridiculous, and it's going to be a fantastic experience, and I think it's going to be the closest thing to offline play in a network setting that we've ever seen in the FGC. So the third thing I wanted to discuss was that I think Project L will have the biggest player base of any traditional fighting game. And why do I say that? Well, it's because if you look at League's concurrent monthly players, okay, their active player base per month is in the hundreds of millions, like 115 million or something like that. And so even if you think not even 1% of that, they say 0.5% of that. If you take 0.5% of that number, let's say those are the people who are interested in Project L and play consistently, just 0.5% of that, you are looking at about 58.5 thousand people. So let's say like 60K, okay? 60K people there who would be interested in playing Project L and playing it consistently. That's crazy, just from League players. And if you're saying, well, okay, maybe that's too high, well, let's take in fighting game players too. How many fighting game players? I think this game will, because it's easy to pick up, because of the simplified controls, I think that's how they're designing it. I think it'll be, and because it'll have such an incentive, because, you know, it's a Riot game, there's probably a decent amount of, you know, that esports money on the line, stuff like that. Everybody's going to be flocking to this game, and people who maybe don't even play fighting games, but are familiar with Riot properties. There's some people who just like to play all of Riot's games. They're just fans of Riot, they're fans of the Runeterra universe. So all these people, they might get into it too. And what ends up happening then is just a huge growth in the player base, and I think what will result is just the biggest player base of any fighting game. I think it'll be something in the hundreds of thousands, probably concurrent players, maybe more. I think it'll be humongous. On top of this, I think there'll be things like seasonal events. I think there'll be seasonal events because that kind of goes hand in hand with the free-to-play model. And what this will encourage is that even more people get into the game, or at least come back to the game. So there'll always be a huge player base. There'll always be people to play with, people to play casuals, ranked, whatever you want. So I think that'll be a big thing, and I think Project L will definitely have the largest player base of any fighting game. Now, I've already mentioned events for the game, but I think what also might happen is a 2v2 mode, and a lot of other people have already discussed this, and it just makes sense because the game is running on a server. It's not peer-to-peer like a lot of other fighting games are, most other traditional fighting games. So because it's a it's a server-based game, what this enables is that 4 people can connect to the server at the same time, and each control a separate character, and I think that'll be a great mode for the game. It'll encourage you to play with your friends, so maybe you're not that good at fighting games, but your friend is a long-time veteran of the genre, and they're going to come in, they're going to play and help you out. So maybe you get knocked out first, and you can say, oh yeah, I can still root for my friend, he can 2v1, he can do it. So I think that'll be really fun. It'll be a great mode, and they might even expand it to 3v3 or 4v4. Maybe they'll just expand in the future. And you know, those events I was talking about earlier, they might even have other modes, just special event modes just for Christmas. You have to fight a boss, Christmas Vega or something like that, you know, just some sort of special modes. They're event specific. They used to do that in League for a while, and they still do. They have some special game modes, so they might also do it for Project L. I think that'll be really cool. But I think the 2v2 mode will be kind of built into the game, and I don't know if it'll be out on launch, but I definitely think they'll eventually incorporate it. It just makes too much sense for the game. The other thing I want to talk about was the OST. The OST will probably be insane, because Riot's music department, they go hard. They've always made some banger tracks. They've made really good, they have a really good variety of music too. They have metal, they have techno, they have some sort of more folk-like, pretty much anything you can imagine. So I think they'll have great tracks to represent the different stages and the characters, and I just can't wait to see what they cook up. And I wonder if maybe they'll even use the League themes for it, because you know, if I could hear Volibear's theme on a Freljord map, I think that'd be so cool. I don't know if they're going to have something like that, but I definitely am excited to see what they cook up. I think the stages and the music will be fantastic. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the roster size and updating. I think there will be frequent updates in the game, because this is how all of Riot's different properties are. And with these updates will come a bunch of new characters, and I think that the roster might eventually grow to be the biggest in, or one of the biggest in contemporary fighting games, you know, modern fighting games. But with regards to the updates, I also think that there might be some division in the FGC, because I think that Riot will patch their game fairly frequently. This is what they do for all their games. If you take League, for example, they balance it every 2 weeks, and I don't think it'll be as extreme for that, because based on the type of game, they are slower or quicker to balance the games, and I think they're aware of the fighting game community, and they will update it slower than other games. But I also think that if there's some sort of major issue, they'll address it quickly, like with hotfixes or things of that nature. This is because if you look at League, if there's ever a game-breaking bug or some sort of major something that basically threatens the competitive integrity of the game. Riot really values this, and so when something like that occurs, then they make sure to just patch it out immediately or very quickly. I think there'll be a lot of communication about the patches. They'll have really good patch notes, and I think that'll be a breath of fresh air, because a lot of fighting game developers are kind of ambiguous about their patch notes or their intentions, and so I think it'll be really great to see Riot do that, and I think it might inspire other developers to follow their footsteps. But I definitely think there'll be more frequent patching than a lot of games, maybe not as much as League, every 2 weeks or something like that. But it will still be enough that some players, maybe the boomers, the boomers, they might get a little upset about it. I don't know. Now let's talk about another feature, a form of tournament system in the game. What do I mean by this? Well, if you take a look at League of Legends, Legend of Runeterra, they have a built-in tournament structure right into the clients. So in League, they have Clash every few weeks, and in Clash you can get together with your friends and you can play in a little tournament, and they give you a prize at the end if you win. And the great thing about these tournaments is that they're divided up by your skill level. So the lower level players, let's say you're a bronze player, you will get placed, if you and your friends are bronze, they will place you against another team that has a bunch of bronze players. But if you have a mix of players, you have a bronze, a silver, a platinum, then they're going to give you a mixed team to play against. So it should be balanced. And it should also be really fun, because players of all skill levels can get into the game and enjoy tournament setting right there without having to go through Smash.gg and things like that. I'm not saying that these things are hard, but I think if you make it as accessible as possible, it'll do a lot for the community, and it'll do a lot to get people into the door of more competitive play. Also, in the Legend of Runeterra tournaments, they have basically a huge tournament for whoever wants to enter, and whoever wins that gets 10k, I believe, for winning it, and I think that's every 2 months. So that would be really cool if you could have some sort of tournament right in there, right in the game, especially when the netcode is so solid that it's nearly like offline. Then I think it would be a great thing to have these sorts of online tournaments and encourage with a monetary incentive or with in-game rewards, whatever. It would be really good for the scene, and it would be really good for the game, and I think they might eventually do it, because they just it kind of naturally fits with fighting games, and they already have templates for doing these sorts of things with League of Legends and with Legends of Runeterra. Here's something that might be on a lot of people's minds. What about esports? What's going to happen with esports? Riot, they're responsible, I would say, for popularizing a lot of esports. It started with StarCraft, but League of Legends really made it popular, really brought a mainstream audience to esports. What is going to happen with esports and Project L? Well, I personally think that, first of all, there's going to be a big influx of esports orgs into the FGC. A lot of Riot properties have esports orgs already with teams in them, League of Legends, Valorant, and I'm not sure about Legend of Runeterra, but they like Riot, okay? They know that Riot, they will support esports, they value esports highly, so I think that'll bring in a bunch of orgs. I also think that there will be larger amounts of money than what the FGC is used to in Project L, but I think a lot of this will be reserved for Riot-only events. Maybe Riot has their own circuit, a Riot World Tour, whatever. It's maybe in the same vein as the Dragon Ball World Tour, the Tekken World Tour, etc. But I think Riot will have those tours and have a lot of money on those, and I think they might also provide pot bonuses to regular FGC events, your EVOs, CEOs, the like. On top of this, I think there might be some division in the FGC as a result of this. I think that some people might want to come in and just go into Project L for the money. Players might quit their own games because they see, well, Project L has more money or more esports recognition, more fame, more glory, whatever. And this might upset some of the more grassroots people who say, oh, you're just in it for the money, whatever. I think there's going to be Twitter drama, is all I'm saying. These last few takes of mine, they're a little bit spicier. I think they're going to be in there. There's going to be some people kind of upset with each other. I think there's definitely going to be Twitter drama. People love that in the FGC. So I think you should look forward to some drama. Now, here's one I think that's kind of interesting, is the ranked system. I think this game will have the best ranked system in fighting games, and that ranked will actually mean something in this game. What do I mean by that? A lot of fighting games, pretty much all fighting games, the ranks, while they do definitely tell you something about your skill, they are not extremely accurate like a lot of Riot games are. If you are a challenger in League, then you are very, very good. You have to be in the top 1%, 0.1% of players to get up to that level. because otherwise they're gonna knock you out. There's just a limited number of seats in Challenger, and you pretty much have to play at like a pro level or streamer level to get in there. So, and then if you're in bronze, then it means you really are not that good at the game. It's very accurate. Their systems have very advanced algorithms to calculate your rank. Maybe League of Legends players, they're sitting there like, oh wait, my rank isn't true. I should be in bronze, but I'm in iron. It's because you're trash. Maybe that's why. In League, it is accurate, and if you do play better, you will rank up. And I think Project L will be the exact same way. If you are good, you will go shoot straight to the top of the ranks. If you're, an old veteran, you have a lot of experience playing fighting games, you're really good, you're Justin Wong, whatever, you're going to shoot right up through the ranks. And then if you belong in bronze or whatever, then you're going to stay there, and it will keep you there until you get better, and it will progress you. And I think there'll be actual ranked rewards. There'll be maybe if you're in gold, just like in League, you'll get a special skin, you'll get a special banner saying, hey, look, I did something, I achieved something, I got better at this game. And there'll be actual incentives to keep playing ranked other than, oh, I grind ranked for like 3 days, get to the top rank, and that's over. No, I think ranked will be a continuous kind of seasonal struggle, much like a lot of other competitive games. You want to keep grinding that rank, keep getting that elo up, and I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a good example for all fighting game companies to look at ranked and say, oh, it's not just versus mode that's important. The ranked mode actually matters. It will compel people to play, and it'll be great for competitive players as well as people who just maybe just want to improve in the game and just want to play against people who are of similar skill level to them. I'm really looking forward to the rank system. Okay, on to the last two predictions. First, I think other fighting game companies will try to replicate Project L's success. First of all, I believe it's going to be successful. Again, this is the more wilder theories. I don't know if this is that wild, but I really do think it'll be successful. I think it'll be extremely successful, so much so that other companies will look to this and maybe look to multiverses and say, oh, we should do the free-to-play model too. And I don't think it'll work for all fighting games. Some of them might not have perhaps the IP power to convince a lot of people to play their game. Or maybe their franchise just isn't built for this sort of thing. Maybe it would be better in the more traditional fighting game model. So I don't know who's going to do it, but I think other companies will try, and I don't know if they'll fail. But I definitely don't think they'll be able to replicate Riot's success, because Riot just has too many things. They have too much money. Their IP is too big for it to fail, I would say, in a sense. But maybe I'm just predicting completely wrong, and they will just fail and burn. But I really don't think so. I think they'll succeed, and I think other companies will try to replicate it, but I don't know if they'll have the same level of success. And lastly, I think that SAJAM will commentate Project L. This is a fun one. This is my last take, and that's because I've never seen this man so excited.
We got a code red. It's Project L time. Code red.
To see news or to follow a fighting game. When the first video dropped from Riot, SAJAM, he's always like, hang on, it's frame data here, whatever. He's in there. But this time he was actually excited. He actually seemed like, oh, this is something interesting. He had a little bit of his blood seemed to boil a little bit, which was interesting to me. I don't know if that's the right word, but he was getting hyped up, okay? He was getting hyped up for this, and I never really seen him that hyped, and I think he'll definitely commentate. It just seems like his kind of game. He seems like a Riot kind of analyst, where you go in, you really break down the game, you know all about the different frame data, you know all about the different setups, the strengths and weaknesses of each character, what have you. And I think he's really suited for it, and I think because he loves Riot's IPs, he plays a lot of Riot's different IPs, I think that SAJAM will play this game. And you can send it to him and clown on me or whatever, but I bet he will, so just watch. Hot takes, and yeah, that's it for me. I think I'm just going to sign off here. Tell me below if you think I'm an idiot or if you think I'm a genius. I'm a genius. And just let me know what your predictions are. We can have some fun in the comments. Anyway, goodbye. Oh, I'll also play Melty Blood.
swag은 완전 새끈 이 swag은 완전 잦은 넌 정말 웩웩웩 nasty boy